Up back with comedian David Boyle, and I'm quitting alcohol. And that will be the second last time I say that this year. It's almost over, people. This year's almost over. This decade's almost fucking done. So I restarted this thing that I did 3 years ago. If you know who Jordan Peterson is, you'll probably know what it is. It's called the Future Authoring Program. Basically what you do is you're writing about your life. It's kind of like goal setting or whatever. It's basically just to straighten your life out. So I started redoing it today, hoping I would get it done to start a fresh new year. I won't get it done by the start of new year, but who gives a fuck. But before I started today, I reread everything I wrote 3 years ago, and it's insane how clearly I saw everything that was going to happen, and I still did nothing about it. There's a section of this self-authoring program called A Future to Avoid. Basically, the idea behind it is to get an idea of what your life might look like if you just said fuck it and just let everything fall to shit. Not try anymore, just continue what you're doing, just heading down the worst path you can possibly think of. It's so you can get an idea, a clear picture of what your own personal hell would look like. So when you see it coming, you can fucking run from it. So I'm going to read you out what I wrote 3 years ago of what my personal hell would look like if I just said fuck it. And you got to remember, it took me 3 full years after writing this to finally quit alcohol, which is mind-blowing because I clearly saw how fucked up I was, but I still couldn't do anything for 3 whole years. Anyway, here it is. It's a bit raw. It's raw, but I'm going to read it anyway. So here is my own personal hell if I just said fuck it. My future to avoid. Here we go. Okay, if I let everything fall to shit, what would happen? Firstly, I would drink heavily, and that kills my willpower. Not only that, it starts to make my ego go crazy, and I just think of bad thoughts constantly. I would start resenting everything and everyone. I would grow distant from my wife, and I wouldn't give a fuck about my kid. I would drink all the time and stay in my own little bubble of booze-fueled, ego-driven nightmare, and it would just grow and grow because all my willpower gets destroyed. I would keep drinking, and my wife would eventually have to leave because she wouldn't be able to handle me anymore. She wouldn't leave because she didn't love me anymore. It would just not be worth it for her anymore. There would be no reason to stay. Then my wife would go back to India and I would be alone in Melbourne, but I would dull the pain with more booze. People would look at me as if they always knew I was a fuck-up. Why did anyone not see this coming? My wife would be in India and eventually she would find another guy, and my son would be in India too. But I would just keep drinking, and I wouldn't have a real relationship with my son because my ego would be so falsely inflated that I wouldn't care, and I would just wait for him to come to me. And I would daydream about it, and I would think of all the sweet things I would teach him, but he won't be there, and I will keep drinking. I won't work because I will think I'm above it, and I won't do anything because I think I'm above it. And I will be alone, but I will be drunk, and the sadness will overwhelm me, but I will just keep drinking. I will start getting into fights and be disrespectful to everyone, but I will be fat and weak, so I'll lose every time. But I'll think it is funny because if I really tried, I'd be able to win. But the fact is, those days would be long behind me. The trying days. I would have let that slip too far into the past that if I was to stop everything at that point, I would have to bust my ass just to stay a loser. And that would be beneath me. So I would drink, and I would hate, and they would feed each other until they were my only fuel, hate and booze. And the sadness would grow so great that it would feel like I can't breathe, and I wouldn't be able to breathe, but I would be able to drink, and I would just keep drinking. I would drink until all the light in me has turned to darkness, and that is all that would feed me, the darkness. I would have quit comedy years ago. I would inflate what I did to make it sound amazing, and some people would be amazed, but I would know deep down in myself that I was a failure, and I would watch the comedians and hate them and loathe them, and think it should be me and not them, and think to myself, if only someone could see this talent. But all I am now is a drunk that talks to himself, and I wouldn't have made anyone laugh for years, and I would lose my friends. They would look down on me, they would pity me, and I would falsely try to stand tall and say it was my way or the highway, and anyone who isn't with me is the one that is missing out. But that may have been the case many years ago, but not now, because everyone has their life to live and their families, and I gave up mine. I gave them up to drink, and I gave them up for my ego. By then, it wouldn't matter to me if I was on the street or I was sheltered. I would have no redemption left. And even if I did try to redeem myself, I would never be able to reach the heights I could have. The lion in me would be dead, the protector, the counselor, the preacher, the healer, the comedian, the husband, the father. Every single thing inside me would be dead, and it would be all my fault. I would have no one to blame but the person staring back at me in the mirror, if I could look in a mirror. And I make this promise to myself, my wife, my son, my family, my friends, to every single living thing on earth. I will never let this happen. Jesus Christ, that was much harder to read out loud than I thought it was going to be. So I wrote that 3 years before I even quit drinking. You have no idea how close I actually came to that happening. I still feel like it could happen at any moment. It is there. It's right there. I just need to stop it from happening. Anyway, that was a depressing one for the second last one of the year. Hope you enjoyed an insight into my soul. Alright, that's it for tonight. I'll speak to you later.